How's it going, gamers? Chongo here, and today I've got a gameplay commentary for you guys. The gameplay is of League of Legends. I've been playing that quite a lot recently. I'm not the best at it, but yeah, it's just some gameplay to have in the background. Now I'm going to cut out, so you're not going to see the whole gameplay because this commentary is not going to be that long, but you'll see the interesting parts. So for today's commentary, I'm going to be talking about why do games cost more in Australia. Now, I have been having disagreements with this for a long time because it always seemed ridiculous to me how in Australia we'd have to pay a lot more for games. Like, I mean, if you walked into EB Games and tried to buy something, you'd be paying $20, maybe even $30 more than what someone in the US would be paying for that same game. Now, what also pisses me off about that is the Australian dollar is actually better than the American dollar at the moment. So to me, that always felt annoying that we are paying $20 to $30 more or whatever, and plus our dollar is worth more than them to begin with. So it didn't really add up. So I've been wondering about this for a while, thinking who actually is taking these profits from these games. Like, I don't really think it was the publishers when they sent out their games. I don't think that they're taking more from Australians because that wouldn't make any sense. So for the most part, I thought it was the actual retail stores that sell these games who are making the most profit. Now, when compared to other countries, for example, like in the UK, when you go to buy a game in there, you pay considerably cheaper than what people would pay in the US due to currency. So, because obviously that the British pound is doing better than the US dollar at the moment. So I always thought it was kind of odd that we're still paying this extra $20, $30, but the UK is paying less because of how much better their currency is doing compared to the US dollar. So yeah, when you compare the game price for games in Australia with the UK and US, it seems like we're getting ripped off. However, I've actually found a very good reason why we are paying more for these games, and it makes a lot of sense, and I'm surprised so many people haven't actually picked up on this in the past, including myself. Now, something that led me in the right direction to this was I saw a post on a Facebook page of a game retailer in Australia basically saying the reason that Australians pay more for games is because of wages. Now, at first I thought, yeah, that's obviously just someone from this game company saying something to keep customers coming back. However, when you do some research and you look at the minimum wage of the UK and the US compared to Australia, Australia's minimum wage is a lot higher. So, for example, if you're working in GameStop in US, which is obviously EB Games in Australia, I think the minimum wage there, like even if you're like 17 or something, is like $9 or $8 or something really, really low compared to what it would be if you were in Australia working in EB Games. The same also goes for the UK. I think their minimum wage was more like 5 or 6 British pounds, so even then that's not really a really good minimum wage compared to what we have in Australia at the moment. Currently in Australia, the minimum wage for a full-timer is $15.96 an hour, which I think equates to about $600 a week, and casuals get an extra 23%, so that's $19.63 an hour. So this information kind of makes me see why we do pay a little bit more for games in Australia, although it still kind of sucks when you see people in America paying that and our currency is like that. I mean, we can always turn to downloading stuff from the internet and paying online for things instead of going to a physical shop because they have to pay the wages. But one thing I thought was really interesting is pricing in Australia isn't just limited to physical stores. Some virtual shops also seem to charge more for Australian games. Now, I see this as them just trying to be on par with what the market is at the moment for actual physical copies of games, as well as maybe sometimes that's why we see some downloadable sites giving cheaper versions because they don't actually have to pay wages or anything like that, so they can sell a game for that cheap. But I think some of them seem to be still having quite high prices for games, which seems a little bit ridiculous considering some companies like this don't even have any staff in Australia at all. Like, I'm talking about digital distribution sites at the moment. So it seems kind of silly that they're charging as much as, you know, in-store or whatever, because I mean, I've looked on Steam sometimes and they'll sell a Call of Duty game brand new for about $100, and it's like, well, you can go down the road and get it cheaper. So I don't understand why they feel the need to put prices like that up, which don't really make much sense. So I think in the near future you're going to see a lot of Australian game retailers maybe close up depending on how well next gen goes and whether the next Xbox and next PlayStation will allow you to download titles straight to your console, because I can see Australian gaming like retail stores probably dying out considering how cheaper stuff is on the internet. So you can buy legal copies of games for about $30 cheaper than what they are in Australia. So I'm talking about $50 to $60 Australian on the internet. So it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of years what happens to these retail gaming stores, if they will die out or if they'll keep continuing. So anyway, this brings me to the end of my commentary. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a like, and if you've got any comments on this, put it down below, and if you want to join the Gamerhood, just subscribe. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.